Hello and welcome to Library Drawing Party. Today we're going to be drawing this beautiful ship. To get started, the first thing I want to talk about is today we're going to work on scale and proportions. So in my sample drawing I have a 5x7 drawing, but we're going to be converting that into a 4x6 drawing, which you can do with any of the drawings that we've done in previous library drawing parties. So to get started, I'm going to take my number 2 pencil. I'm going to use a slightly thicker pencil so that you can see. And we're going to start with this center mast. So I'm just going to draw a straight line that goes through the center of our drawing. Because it's wood, it would naturally have some curves in it, so I don't feel the need to use a straight edge for this, but you can always use a ruler if you'd like a straight line, or if you'd like these to be metal posts. And I'm drawing a line right next to it to show the width of the mast. Then let's draw, and this goes right up to the edge of the page. Then let's draw a mast in the front. A little over halfway in between the right hand side of the page and the center. And the beauty of using a pencil is we can adjust the lines as we go along. And then about halfway from the center to left hand side of the page is another mast. And I'm keeping them all about the same thickness. And then we want them all to come down to about 1/4 up from the bottom of the page. And then we have a flagpole at the very back of the ship. Once we have our masts and flagpole drawn, then we can start to work on the outline for the ship. So we have a curved line up front, and then that comes out to about halfway, a little over halfway in between the first and the second mast. Then we have a little bit of an angle here, and it dips down so that you can see on board. And because of that, we're going to pull our mast down a bit. And then that goes halfway in between the masts, and then it comes up. It's probably about 1/8 to 1/4 of the center mast. And then we draw the straight line across, and this is the back of the boat. So we can erase the extra mast and the extra flagpole. And we can pull the flagpole up a bit. As you're working on these proportions, you can adjust them as you go along once you see how one area starts to work, then you can better understand how another one works. Then we have a couple of side planks. So you're drawing the rectangle on an angle. Then we have some rails going across. Then another side plank. And then a half circle, then a half circle the other way. And this is all pretty curved. Now we're gonna have a half circle, which turns into an S shape, which pops out a bit. And we have a little bump. And then it comes out, so you see the back of the ship. Then let's draw the pole that comes up from the port or deck. And that goes down to where the ship base is. We can erase the ship because the pole would be in the foreground. Then let's draw the other pole that's down the opposite end. Now, part of the decisions you'll have to make if you're scaling things down is whether or not to show a close-up and cut part of the image off, or to make the image very small but show all of it. In this case, I'm going to do somewhat of a compromise because I don't want to lose our ship. I want that to stay pretty large for the viewer to see all the intricacies. But because I'm keeping the ship pretty large, I'm going to be shrinking the dock. So you're not going to be seeing the water in front of it, but I think it's a worthy sacrifice. If you are drawing from the sample drawing, you're just going to want to make sure you leave about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom to draw that water line and the rest of the dock. This right here is a lifeboat, so it's going to be inflatable. And we want to have the railing on both sides. So when we're drawing this, you're going to have the rectangles and make sure that there's some space in between the rectangles to show where the ramp is. Then we're going to draw these beams, come down to the main post. And let's draw sails. I'm drawing this almost straight with a little bit of a diagonal edge. And the sails themselves, they're folded up right now because they weren't in use since people are coming onto the ship. And then let's have this have almost the same diagonal line. with the folded up sails. And then there's a big sail in the back. Okay, then there's this box here, which might be a lookout point. Then there's a flag. And then an American flag on the flagpole. And you can make the flags whatever you'd like. If you want to make them the New Jersey flag, the Navy flag, Marines, whatever flag you'd like to add, you can go ahead and do that once we get to the coloring. For now, let's just add the outlines. And we have some windows. And I'm going to need to scale these down too. And then a curved window. And this we want it to be pretty straight, so you might want to use a ruler for this. Now for the people, I went for an impressionist style, so I'm just hinting at people that there's people on the ship, but I don't want them to be the focus. So they're mainly just colors and circles and squares. So I'm going to put a couple of these, they're almost like stick figures. Then there's one walking along the dock. And then there's something for the ship to tie up. And we have a couple of ropes over here. They come up about a third of the way on the back side of the ship. And then it connects to the corner where the beams are. And then finally, let's add in all of the ropes holding the sails in place. This one, it's almost like a pitchfork because there's a straight line and then 3 coming out from it. There's 2 from the flagpole with some dots. And there's 3 coming from the back mast with 3 dots and then 3 dots directly underneath those, and then a line and there's a rope connecting the center to the back mast, and then one connecting from the front to the center mast, and one from the front to the very front of the dot. And then a couple more of these pitchforks. I'll share a link to more information about the history and making of ships in our Facebook party. And then there's ones connecting the center to the sails, center to the back of the ship. A couple going down. This, they should all of the lines should reflect the gravity. And a few, I count 5 from the center post to the deck. Okay, once you have your lines drawn, then we can start to add in our color. Now, the ship is going to be black. I'm going to be using a permanent marker, which is why it's important to make sure you're happy with your outline before you go on to the next step. And as you can see, instead of just coloring this all black, I'm doing deliberate lines across and horizontally, leaving some white space in between to show the planks making up the ship. You want to think of your strokes as wooden boards. So if you want shorter boards or longer boards, you don't want to make sure your strokes reflect that. You don't want to be and you don't want to have a lot of space between, but you also don't want it to look flat. Then you can straighten out lines near these poles, but you're only going to want to use the permanent marker for the poles where it meets up with the ship. So like the top, we're going to leave that gray for now. I'm gonna work around the ramp right now and give a lot of space for the people because I'm gonna add more detail when we add in the color. And you don't want to color over your ropes either. So make sure that you keep those white, and if you find it helpful like I do, you can draw the outline of the ropes. You can even do that before you start coloring like I'm doing now. That way you don't accidentally put your planks over the ropes. And let's do the beams. And the railing. I'm making nice solid edges for the beams to connect to, and adding some rails. And let's draw the masts and lookout point and a sail. I'm putting some lines to show the texture of the sail and that it's folded up. Let's do this mast. has a little bit of a triangle by the flag, and then the mast is a little bit thicker than the flagpole. Same thing here, we have a bit of a triangle. And then the flagpole. And let's take a look at all of the dots. And finally, let's finish the ramp. Now to add in some color, let's start with the American flag. So we have the stripes, but because the flag is folded in, you're only going to see some of the stripes. So there's 3 on the bottom, 3 on the side, and then 2 in the front. And then we'll take our blue, and since it's so far away, I'm just going to do it all blue and not worry about the stars. Just like the people, this is going to be Impressionist. And then let's make a yellow flag for New Jersey. You can make the flag whatever you'd like. I'm gonna make some red and some blue. Now for the people, I'm gonna put some blue, red. I'm using these colors to bring out the American flag. And darker blue. And some yellow hair. Some brown. Black. Let's take that light blue and we'll draw in the ramp. We can take the black and let's use that for the poles. So the right hand side is going to be darker. Let's draw a vertical line on each of the poles with the black. And then I'm drawing some very small horizontal lines for some shading. Let's add some shadow at the bottom. Let's define this. That reminds me of a pawn in chess. Let's take our brown and draw the deck. Let's take our black and fill in pieces by the people. You can use your black and go over the permanent marker, and we'll still be able to see the lines we drew, but this will help get rid of some of the white. And take light blue, use that for our life raft. Add a bit of red to that too. Again, helps tie in our American flag. I'm gonna leave the ropes gray because they would be white, so this way you can see that they're there, but they're still pretty light. Let's add in the C. Let's take our light blue and blend the color in. Let's take our yellow and draw out a beach. And let's take our sandy color, help give it a more natural look. Let's take our green and add in our tree line. And my tree line in this drawing is going to be a little bit higher, but could just be we have more trees in this drawing, since every ship is going to be a little bit different, every dock. So I'm using diagonal lines for the tree line so that they look like evergreens. And then I'm going to put some green in the water for a reflection. You want the green to extend about the same as the tree line. Take our black and fill in the deck a bit. And take our light blue. You're gonna want to make sure that you erase pencil marks from the windows, and then you draw in the blue windows. Then let's take our blue. We'll draw a nice light blue sky. You can draw right over the ropes, just want to avoid drawing on the sails. You can also use watercolor for this. Just make sure that if you do the watercolor, that you give it plenty of time to dry. If you decide to do any further details afterwards. And there you have it. That's our ship. Thank you for joining us in this week's library drawing party. We hope to see you again next week. We have library drawing parties every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and keep being creative.